Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Sunday, the 13th of Rabi'ul Akhir 1445, corresponding with the English date 29th of October 2023. Hazrat Wala starts off this Majlis by reciting the ayat of the Quran Majid, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. This is the dua of Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah Ta'ala accept our du'as also due to His barakat, because of His barakat and उन्हीं के तुफेल में हमारी दुआओं को भी कबूल फरमा दे. So now we learn from this year also, when Allah Ta'ala mentions this, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ, we learn from this year that Allah Ta'ala liked this particular dua of Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam. Now the kitab is that of a very great and a celebrated Buzruk, Sheikh Ibn Ataullah Iskandari, and Hazrat Haji Imdadullah says, Maulana Ashraf Ali, uski tarjuma kar do, logo ko fayda pahunchega. Translate this kitab, it will prove to be greatly beneficial for the people. The tarjuma was carried out in Makkah Mukarrama, and then Hazrat Wala then goes on to remark and say, Hazrat Wala says that main samajhta hu, that in my opinion, I understand that Hazrat Tanvi kept this kitab in front of him, and after that he built and he made all his usuls, but he had and kept this kitab in front of him as the fundamental kitab. I read this particular article and this topic to you many a time in the past, 2, 3, whatever it was. However, presently, now I understand it necessary. Therefore, I read this same topic and discuss this same subject matter with you. Hazrat Wala goes on to say and read the ibarat which is in the kitab in front of him, the one that Hazrat Tanvi had translated. So it goes to say, Janna chahiye, that you should know and understand well that Haq subhanahu wa ta'ala ne, that Allah Ta'ala, Haq subhanahu wa ta'ala ne Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam के qalb ko noor riza se mumbasit kar diya, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spread, opened up the heart and filled the heart of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam with the noor of his pleasure. Now Ibn Arabi, when he goes to Baytullah, he's in front of the Hajar Aswad, he recites the Shahadatain. The Hajar Aswad at that time becomes so vast and open, and it makes zabt, and it captures that Shahadatain of Ibn Arabi, and then says that I will present this and take this out tomorrow on the day of Qiyamah. Now, Allah Ta'ala let it also be such on our behalf as well, that the Hajar Aswad makes zabt of our Shahadatain. You know, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to say, ये भी चीज है, सिर्फ दुनिया को हासिल नहीं करना है, आगे भी कुछ है. He would go on discuss these great things, and he would say, this is also something. This is also something. We are not here just to accumulate dunya. No. Above, over and above that, in front, there is still something greater to achieve. Kitna umda mazmoon. What a wonderful topic. Now from all of this here also we learn that Allah se razi, that being pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that there is also a noor for that there is also a nur for that. Now, with what type of imbisat and open-heartedness and spread out of the heart do we recite kalima tayyiba? Don't you think there's a great deficiency in that? Hazrat Mujaddid Al-Fithani used to say, Ke hech arzu nest, I have no desire and wish whatsoever other than finding some corner of solitude in which I can repeat abundantly the kalima tayyiba. But what to do? I am restricted, and due to the work that was handed over to him, he could not avail himself, but that was his heart's desire to find a corner of solitude where he could make takrar of the kalima tayyiba and nothing else than that. The most beneficial is that La ilaha illallah. Now how many times do we even read? And here what is it? Ghayrullah ki nafi. It is negation of all other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when we do that, Allah ta'ala khush hote hai. Allah ta'ala becomes happy. If Allah ta'ala accepts just our once saying Allah, or once that we read the kalima tayyiba, that can probably just be the means of our salvation in the akhirat. Do you not understand? And see, sometimes just that one roti that was given in charity becomes the means of the salvation of that person. So Allah Ta'ala is most generous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most forgiving and most loving. If you want to understand this of being pleased with Allah, har cheh az dost mi rasad nekost. Whatever comes from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is only good in it. So it is a gift. It is something coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Tanvi has written about this. There was a buzruk. Somebody came to him and said to him, Hazrat, can't you intercede and make safarish on my behalf in front of the king? So the buzruk then just writes a few words in his letter in trying to intercede or put the intercession forward to the king on behalf of this person. And what does he write? He writes there, In a'taytahu falmu'ti huwa Allah wa anta al-mashkur. Agar aapne usko kuch diya, de diya, to dene wala Allah. Aap ka shukriya ada kiya jayega. Listen, if you give him something, then remember well, the original and the genuine giver is only Allah, but nevertheless you would be thanked for that. Bas. And then the next line, what does he say? He says, وَإِن مَنَعْتَهُ فَالْمَانِعْ هُوَ اللَّهُ. That if you did not give him, then remember the one who does not give, the one who deprives is rokne wala, the one who stops is Allah, and you will be considered to be excused. Now, what a great and unique sentence, and so much said in so little. Now, what a wonderful intercession. We don't, हमको सफारिश करने का दंग भी नहीं. We don't even know how, the style or the way to make sifarish or intercede on someone's behalf. And in these couplets here, what is it? There's nothing other than that of Tawheed. Nevertheless, we were telling you about Kalima Tawheed. So जानना चाहिए कि हक़ सुब्हानहू व तआला ने इब्राहिम अलैहिस्सलातु वस्सलाम के क़ल्ब को नूर रिज़ा से मुंबसित कर दिया. You should know that Allah Ta'ala had opened the heart of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam with the nur of his pleasure and happiness. Now Allah Ta'ala also open up our hearts. Now what is it? It is negation and then affirmation. Negating, nafi. Confirmation, ithbat. Nafi, negating everything other than Allah. And ithbat, establishing and confirming Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam hands himself over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala totally and completely. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns, protects his heart from even gazing towards the makhluk. It is for this reason that the fire then became cool and peaceful for him. He handed his heart over and himself over to Allah in his obedience. And in him doing this, Allah Ta'ala blessed him with peace. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala made his batin also correct, and that maqam as well. And what was this? It was nothing other than izzat and karamat. Therefore, a mu'min should also understand this here, that when he is put into a situation of trial and tribulation, and the dunya comes to him at that time to offer help, then he should deny it and he should say that I would only take help from Allah. And if they say to him, then ask Allah, he would then say that Allah's knowledge of my present condition suffices me from even asking him. I don't need to ask him. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Nevertheless, the dua of Yunus alayhi salatu wasalam, فَاسْتَجَبْنَا لَهُ وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِي الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, that we answered for him his dua and we saved him from sorrow and grief. And like this we would continue granting salvation to the believing people, who follow in the footsteps of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. We will continue doing that. You know, on one occasion, I was there with Hazrat Shaykhul Hadith, and one of his own people came there completely panic stricken. And at that time he's saying that, Hazrat, you know, this happened and that happened and they done this here in Kanpur. So Hazrat Shaykhul Hadith went on to say that, kya? ये कोई नई चीज़ है? Is this something new? Or, I mean, what was he trying to say? He was actually trying to pacify and console this person. In which way? That do not worry too much about that. Open the annals of history. This has been happening from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, Hazrat Wala quotes those couplets that I'm being teased and I'm going through this trial and tribulation all in the name of your love, because of my love for you. For a moment, why don't you just come and see? Look at this ashik, how he's being teased and troubled, tortured and persecuted just because of what crime? The crime that he loves you. So Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb Hazrat Wala is saying, I heard from him personally that he would say regarding this ayat that nowhere in the Quran has Allah Ta'ala mentioned that we will continue giving the believers salvation if they do this, other than this particular situation here where Allah Ta'ala speaks about this incident and the dua of Yunus alayhi salatu wassalam. Now, from all of this here, we learn in this qissa there is great lesson for people who take admonition, and there is hidayat for those who have insight and foresight. It is that the person who comes out from his arrangements and planning this, that and the other, then Allah Ta'ala then plans for him well. Have you not seen the qissa and the incident of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, that he made no preparations or arrangements for himself whatsoever. Rather, he handed himself over completely and totally to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in his obedience. And he spent and then it is because of this here that Allah Ta'ala even gave him the glad tidings that he will be remembered, even though with the great passage of time in the later generations he would be remembered. Or humko Allah ka hukam hai, and we have the hukam from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we should not come out of this millat of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam and these great teachings and lessons that he had taught us. And we should keep properly in mind this name that he has kept for us, which Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran Majid, that millata abikum Ibrahim huwa sammakumul muslimin. So don't come out from this. So that person who is the Ibrahimi, who is following Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, then it is suitable for him that he absolves himself of this type of preparations and arrangements, this, that and the other. Hazrat Wala just comments on that particular thing. He says, listen, it's not prohibited. Yes, do whatever you want to do or what you have to do. However, keep your gaze, focus and attention, rather your hope on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and never object to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not even in your heart. Now, this is such an important article and the ta'aleem in it is of utmost importance. But what can I say to you? I cannot continue because of my mazuri and because of my weakness and my situation here. Thereafter, Hazrat Wala directs his beloved son, Maulana Mahbub Ahmad Saheb, to carry out and make the dua. The dua is made, people say Ameen, and the Majlis then comes to an end. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ بِحُرْمَةِ سَيِّدِ النَّبِيِّ الْكَرِيمِ صلى الله عليه وسلم.